We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright when the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What time you said coming over you. You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wright. That is the 3 Amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your weekend. Me, George and Mitch are present. Steve is on the way and Joe is on the way as well. And as always, plenty to talk about on this show. And most people know I sit back and don't say a great deal. First of all, I want to say thank you to Newcastle United for inviting me to the Stack on Wednesday. Unfortunately, I couldn't go. 2 days' notice is not enough time for me to rearrange my diary to come along to an event at the Stack. However, I did appreciate the invite, and I think it does go to show that no matter who you are, no matter whether you're a critical friend or not, the club don't hold anything against anybody and do send out invites randomly, I guess, to people. And as a season ticket holder, I've got every bit as a right as everybody else to go. Just unfortunate I couldn't make it. However, did manage to get a lot from the press on this. The likes of Craig Hope, Lee Ryder, etc., covered it in great depth in their column inches and on their social media platforms and on their YouTube channels. So we did get quite a lot of information coming from that. I'll give you my opinion first of all on where I stand. Some of it stacked up, some of it didn't. See what I did there? But for me, I know this new stadium thing is going to be the one of the big talking points. And I can see 3 letters in the chat tonight as well, which again will take over a vast amount of this program with the lads on the panel, and that's APT. We will come to that, of course. The new ground thing, we've discussed it until we're blue in the face or black and white in the face, however you want to put it on here. But my mindset on the stadium is still the same. I genuinely think St James's Park is our spiritual home. We want the best for the football team. And, I think, genuinely speaking, I see people saying 75,000, 80,000. Tell me who is going to go and sit in those seats Please tell me who's going to sit in those seats, because I genuinely don't see Newcastle filling a 75, 80,000 seater stadium week in, week out until we start winning something. And when was the last time we won something domestically? 1955. When was the last time we won something in Europe? 1969. And the other part of the show tonight will be dominated by APT and all of these things that I don't have a full understanding on, and I'm sure most of you don't. That's why you're tuning in to get this on layman's terms. But we do have issues spending our money that our owners have because of the rule changes and because of this absolutely ridiculous state we find ourselves in. One of the richest owners in the world, and we can't spend any of the money. But I don't want to get dragged into that at the minute. The stack thing and the fact that 90% of the people there all went, yeah, we want a new stadium. Yeah, that's a minority of people sitting in the stack, invited by the club, drinking. Those people don't represent everybody in the fan base. They represent a percentage of the fan base, but not a massive percentage of the fan base. So, listen, the club will do what the club want to do. This is, for me, all of this is a tick and box exercise. I think the club have decided what they want to do. I just hope, A, they get the right venue. B, the right site, sorry. B, that they get the numbers right, the numbers game right. And C, that they think about this across the board, not just from a corporate point of view. Because a lot of the sound bites that I heard from the stack in particular were about, figures and corporate commercial revenue and this, that, and the other. And I personally don't want to see, we've lost the working class game. I don't want to see us lose the middle class game. I don't want to see us lose that. I don't want this to become just all corporate. Otherwise I'll be out there setting up FC Newcastle and going to play it on the Fell and Flower show fields and trying to get people organised, in that way and just go and set my own football club up. That's the way I feel. I'm not trying to sound negative, because what happened on Wednesday, which, as I say, I was invited but I couldn't go, it looked very positive. Fair play to all of those people, Eales, Silverstone, Mitchell, the guy who none of us really knew as well, all sitting there to be interviewed by Matthew Raisbeck. Yes, no questions from the floor. And I don't blame them. You'll get people going, putting their hand up after they've had 3 pints of lager going, oh, we're going to buy Messi, you just don't want that. It has to be structured when you do these kind of things. But there's just a hell of a lot to take in with all of this. And we're now there's things being thrown at us. Most of you who are season ticket holders will have had the survey by now. Now, I filled it in. I took 10 minutes this morning to fill it in. I thought the survey was excellent. I think it asked some very relevant questions. I do, without going into none here, because I don't want the woke police reporting on UFC matters for being this, and this. But, there were things that I've got to be honest, I look at and went, really? Is that what they put on these things now? I actually felt offended reading some of the questions on there, if you want my honest opinion. But that's a different matter. The survey itself, though, in general, I thought was really, really good. And I urge you, if you're a season ticket holder, to fill it in, because the club are asking you some pretty important questions about things which involve you on a match day, home and away. So fill it in. You don't have to put all your information. If you don't want to put all your information in, it gives you the option of opting out on certain things. You know what? Stick your stuff, stick it down there and do it and fill it in. There's one of the questions which we'll come to later, which will lighten the load after we've all discussed the various things that have gone on this week, which I will ask the lads, and I'll give them time to think about it, is what is the song that you think Newcastle United should come out to? At the minute, we're all having to sing Hey Jude, which I don't think any of us thinks relevant to Newcastle at all. It's a great song by the Beatles, but there's at least another 6 or 7 clubs that I know of who use that as their warm-up song for people to warm their vocals up as the teams come out and line up. It gives you the option of suggesting the song that you'd like to come out to. So I have suggested Bladen Races, as long as everyone knows the words and sings the correct words. And let's just do the chorus. I'm not asking you to talk about, your crinolines coming off and all of that carry on, but let's just do the Bladen Races. That's a good one. Or do something like Coming Home Newcastle, something which everybody knows the words to, but it's got a real meaning, But those are the kind of songs that I think. Blade and Races is our national anthem. I genuinely think that's what we should come out to. But the lads can have a think about that and come back to that in the second half of the show. Have I got anything else to say? I'll leave the APC stuff till we talk about it. But yeah,
there's only an hour and a half to go, Steve. You're all right.
Getting it back to the stack. I think it's a worthwhile exercise. I thought it looked as if they did it very well. But let's just remember that that's a minority of supporters who were invited, who went along and gave their opinions, and not everyone is in the same mindset. But I feel my opinion is that it doesn't matter what I think, what the people at the stack think, what George, Steve, and Mitch think, and what you think sitting at home. I think the club will make the decision anyway. But what they are doing is communicating with us and making us feel part of the process. But I believe, my personal opinion, that they probably already made the decision. Do I agree with it? No. I think short term, I think if we've got the money and we've got the opportunity, I would build on the Gallagher end. I would build 10,000 seats, and I think we could fill them. And I think it gives you more room for corporate and a few more people to come on a match day. People may think that's ridiculous and it's narrow-minded and it's pathetic and blah, blah, blah. But tell me how we're going to sell anything more than 70,000 seats on a match-to-match basis without winning anything on a regular basis. I don't see it happening. And look across the board. Look at Spurs. Can't fill that stadium. 95% of the games this season, I think, full. Man City won everything. Not once, not twice, probably 3 times since that takeover. Can't fill that stadium. So what makes us different? What makes us different? Especially when the ticket prices will be going up and up and up, which is what's happening. So tell me how we're going to sell it out. And don't tell me that it's going to be, it's going to be every week. It's not. They can't do it. Every game gets affected as well. The women's team, 20, 26, 27,000. Is that the record? Forgive us if I'm wrong. How many did they have for last weekend's game? 11,500. 11,500. So even the women's game can be affected by that. So yeah, 12.5 minutes rant, but I felt it had to be said because I've got to have my opinion. And I've been talking about this until the cows come home this week with various people. People stop us, having meetings and whatever, and lots to talk about. But I genuinely do not think that we will fill a big stadium. I think extending on the Gallagher might be the best plan short term. But we'll wait and see. George, what do you think about? And I don't want this just to go down the stadium route. You'll have had time to digest what happened at the Stack the other night. Pick the bones out of it. Tell us what you thought.
Well, as you know, I've got a bee in my bonnet that I've had for a while. That it's interesting to see all those people there talking to the fans and all the rest of it. We still haven't got anybody, in my view, at the top level who really understands the Geordie passion, the Geordie nature, in my view. And to do that, they can ask as many questions as they like. They'll never get it right. And that does worry me. The other thing is, I agree with you on the numbers. The numbers are critical. If they don't get it right, what a soul-destroying thing to play in a half-filled stadium or even a 2/3 filled stadium. I wouldn't want that either. So I think you're right, Steve, about the numbers. They've got to get that critical number right. And if there are occasions when it looks like the stadium's going to have empty seats, then there's an opportunity for the club to engage with local schools and youth clubs and this sort of thing and do some freebies, something like that. But I wouldn't want to see that be the motivation for a huge stadium that we're never going to fill. So on that, I'm with you. I'm also inclined of having seen the Gallagher suggestion that's not a bad idea either. So the big one for me is that making sure that they do these questionnaires and things. Now, this questionnaire is hardly much different to the last one that we've seen. And too much of it for me is pointed towards the prawn sandwich brigade. you know, it's pointed towards people that sometimes don't normally go to games even. So I'm you know, I worry a little bit about that. And then there's all the other things that that go with it. And I'm slightly dismayed that at some of the pointers, some of the attitudes that come out of it, and you're right. They wouldn't dare ask questions because they would be swamped with rubbish. There's no doubt about that. But there's a real demand for change, but it's got to be the right change in my view, and that's the big question. The other thing that you're right about as well is we can ask questions and have our opinions and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, the people that matter are the people with the money, and that's the people in the club. They're ticking boxes, I think. You know, that's the right thing you said, because they're shown publicly and plainly consultation, and you can guess high on the list of things the new football regulator's going to look at are consultation with fans and all the rest of it, because they've probably got nothing else in their armory, to be honest. And that's another issue that fills me full of terror in many ways, because what's it going to do? But at least they're ticking the boxes. They're saying, well, we did discuss with fans, etc., etc., and it looks good. But I wasn't desperately over the moon about what happened in the stack in what came out of it. That's what I'm trying to say. But I am pleased that they've done it and they've consulted, and they can say that genuinely. So I don't know if that fills what you're thinking about, Steve, but
yeah, it does. Mozza, your question came up, your point came up there. Yeah, they did ask for people to put questions forward, and yeah, great. They answered them. I wasn't there, so I can't say whether they did. I know you went, I think, but that's great. And this is another thing that people say. There was 40,000 people who were applying for tickets, but can you remind us that the whole membership thing, Mozza, and I've mentioned it on here before, if there was 38,000 members, which is I think what there was last year, so let's say there's 40,000 members, that doesn't necessarily mean there's 40,000 people who want to come to the game week in, week out. If we worked on that kind of remit, then what? We need a 100,000 seater stadium. That's not true. And I will remind you, what I've said from day one is that they've moved touting from outside the ground to online. And there are networks of people who have bought memberships for not just Newcastle, but for every club in the Premier League. And they buy the tickets. They work as a team. They buy the tickets and they sell them via these sites. That's how these tickets appear legitimately on these sites for advanced prices, higher prices. So those people, those people have moved. Our club has gone like everybody else, which is, some people may think that's great, but it's moved the touts from outside the ground who are now selling hats and scarves to selling it online. So that's where we're at with that. But listen, I'm not having a go at you, Moss. I'm just giving you the alternative. There is not 40,000 people waiting to buy season tickets.
Steve, I'd also argue the club's attitude to away supporters has helped that fuel that fire as well.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. And I've heard this week people go to me, there might be a change. They might just cancel all season tickets. And I'm going, well, they're not going to do that. But, nothing would surprise me with football in general, not just Newcastle United. The Mitch, you can tell this week's aggravated me a little bit in many ways. Just not the club have aggravated us, I hasten to add. Just the way that, just reading some of the stuff that people have put out and the way that it's dividing and conquering the fan base. And it's another reason why I'm just slowly falling out of love with football in general, really.
It's always the way in why, I come at things from sometimes a slightly different angle, because this isn't new to me at all. And nor is it new to Mr. Hasty. He and I have been bouncing this around probably for over 10 years now, really. And then some, about where we go, what we do, what kind of numbers we're talking about. Before I start, I'd like to start with a little thank you, if you don't mind, Steve.
Go for it, mate.
Remember last week we talked about my friend Simon in San Diego, who got sent his daughter's birthday present shirt with the wrong number on the back with Bruno G93. Initially, he was sent quite a bog standard generic email and asked to send it back at a cost of £12 to him, by the way. But before he did that, he got another email from somebody specific within the club who reached out to him, who said, keep the shirt and we're going to send you a new one. And that shirt has been dispatched today.
Well done.
Thank you, Newcastle United. This is how you look after people. This is what we want to see from you. This isn't Castoria level customer service. This is Newcastle United level customer service. So thank you. Thank you. That's the right thing to do. You've done them right. You've done them proud. And more of the same, please. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. With regards to the ground, I've been of an opinion, probably since around about 2014, that a new ground was inevitable at some stage. That the site at St James's Park is difficult to work with to get beyond where we are. And so that was something that we needed to consider going down the line. There's a number of caveats and things attached to that, though. Had that question been asked in the stack, do you want to move to a new ground that's within walking distance of St James's Park, or do you mind if it's in the middle of Northumberland on a brownfield site? I do think the voting would be significantly different, because I think there's a lot of assumption that the council's just going to play a ball and everybody's going to play nice and we can have Leazes Park and do with what we want. It's never that simple. It's never that simple when you deal with local authorities, and it's never that simple when you deal with politicians who have a very myopic view of everything and who look so super locally and look after their own interests initially before they see the bigger picture. And there's a common theme on some of my rants tonight, I think, and that's one of them, is that people always eventually look at self-interest and not the bigger picture. And so it's a big assumption to say that we're going to move to a brand new ground within walking distance of St James's Park. That's what we'd love. That's what we'd like. I'm sure that's what the club would like. But there's still a lot of hoops to jump through and a lot of boxes to tick before we get to that point. A lot of the resistance and the pushback against it really don't have that much solid ground anymore. The council themselves are financially in a precarious situation. If the club, for example, were to decide, right, we're going to move to this brownfield site in Northumberland and sod Newcastle and sod you, and oh, by the way, it's your ground now because you own the land and we're just going to leave the buildings on it and you've got to demolish it. The demolition of St James's Park would bankrupt Newcastle City Council, I'm quite sure of that. You know, it's that complex and it's that delicate. And these are the discussions that need to be done correctly. And I'm sure the club want to do it correctly. Am I convinced we'll get the same level of correctness from Newcastle City Council? Well, I'm never convinced about that when it comes to local authorities, unfortunately. What do I want to see in terms of numbers? I find it fascinating that the Italian clubs moving to new grounds are all downsizing. They're tired of looking at Italian cup competitions with 20,000 in the ground and the ground looking empty because it is a third empty, or 2/3 empty, or 3/4 empty. Could we sell out 80,000? Yes, we could. Probably 3 or 4 games a season max. And I think that's max. So do we really need that? Not really. I also think, looking from a PSR perspective, if the club are trying to make greater income, their priority is going to be on the higher end in level of income. The priority is going to be corporate. It's going to be match day experiences, etc. Because that's where the money is. That's where clubs like Arsenal, Tottenham and Man U make their additional money. If you look at what some of them are doing in terms of match day experiences, shall we say. Yes, does that mean there's more tickets would be available for the ordinary fan? Yeah, probably. but I don't think they'd be as benevolent as you may believe they would wish them to be. At the end of the day, PIF are here to make money, and so maximising income from a ground will mean certainly a bigger weighted numbers in corporate and in that level of income. It's always been a very delicate balance. I think if there was a way to expand St James's Park, and I'm personally bouncing things around with the architect John Henry, who did the Dubai, the big wheel here at the Blue Waters in Dubai, who come up with some of the designs that I shared with Mark Douglas that have been bounced around for the last couple of years. There are solutions, but the challenge with that is what do we do while we're achieving those solutions? Where do we play? How can we do it in the off season? How does that then limit with capacity-wise the following season if we're sort of in a half and half situation? These logistical things need to be thought through and thought out. And so I know what the ideal answer is, but are we in a position to get that ideal answer, an ideal solution? I hope so. I have faith in the club that they will do everything in their power to do that. It's the other people we've got to deal with I don't have the faith in.
Okay, interesting stuff. I'm reading all your comments. I'm not going to have time to address them all. Otherwise, this would just be a Steve Rafe Q&A. Yes, Darren, I do have my own opinion, and I don't speak for anybody else. And that's always been the way. That's the whole point of being a supporter and having your own having your own mind and being able to express your own opinion. It's freedom of speech, which at the minute we've still got in this country, although I do think certain people are trying to eradicate that. But yeah, for me personally, that's my opinion, Darren. And I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody other than that. And what was the other one? Yeah, David Vetch, just said, look, it's simple. Build a new stadium that is expandable. How difficult is that to understand? Yeah, but there's a lot more to it. And I think Barry Hogan put a really good point in earlier that, people under 35, I think he said, maybe 30, want a new stadium. People over 35 would love to keep St James's Park. So it's an age thing, is what Barry's suggesting, which, we are of a slightly older age group, although, young Joe is probably like, he's the whippersnapper of the group. But yeah, maybe that does have a little part to play, but that doesn't mean that the older supporters' view is any less, important than the younger supporters' view, does it? Because our money and our support has helped the club get to where it is now. The supporters who are younger are the ones who have got to keep the club going. So you get lost in a myriad of webs, really, talking about that. But Steve, I've got to keep my mouth shut. Steve, over to you. I feel like I've had 12 bottles of Malverno. All I've had is 2 cups of coffee. Steve.
Apologies to everybody. This is what happens.
What's the best thing about supporting Newcastle United at the moment?
Yeah, this is what happens when I'm 5 minutes late and we allow Steve to run wild. Crazy, isn't it?
Great rant, fully operational.
Exactly. You made some great points, Steve, and some very valid points. All part of what we've used as a dialogue for 5 years now, 6 years now. Certainly on this platform, that's what it's all about. It's about gathering opinions. It's about debating issues. It's about understanding other people's opinions and accepting them. On the ground itself, what I would say is that I'm an advocate for a big stadium, but tied in with that advocacy comes the responsibility of the football club to make sure that the pricing of the games inside that stadium are done to allow everyone access. And when I say everyone, I mean the guy who's on unemployment benefit, the guy who is on the sick, the old age pensioner. I don't want a ground where it's excluded a vast majority of Tyneside because the prices are 80, 90, £100 a ticket minimum. I don't want that. It might be nice and shiny, but it's got to be full. And the only way you can fill it is if you have a pricing structure that allows it. I want a pricing structure and a system that allows youngsters to get in Now, I see that as important because that's the future of the football club. Having said that, what we also have to appreciate, and this is something that I spotted online a couple of weeks ago. I don't know whether anyone else saw it, but there was a video put out by someone standing outside St James's Park, talking to youngsters. And when I say youngsters, I'm talking about people probably under the age of 20, 21, and they were showing them photographs of Newcastle players from the past. And to a man, they had no idea who, for example, the likes of Les Ferdinand was. I was gobsmacked, absolutely gobsmacked. But it got my brain thinking, and I'm thinking, you know what? Us guys in the older generation, we bleed and we worship those ex-players. They brought us nothing except a dream that in some areas that dream remains unfulfilled, but they brought us some decent football to watch, some exciting games. They came at a time, let's say, for the entertainers as a prime example, some wonderful football. We could then move on and we can talk about other players. We can go further back and we can talk about Malcolm, and we can talk about Jackie Milburn. We can talk about the team of the 70s and getting to the 76 Cup final and the 74 Cup final. And we can talk about the first Cup lads. But those youngsters, it means absolutely nothing to them. And it means nothing to them because society's changed, the whole outlook. Kids only see what's happening today. They don't read history. They don't get involved in the history. The history of the football club means nothing to them if you haven't won anything. And that's a different mindset to my mindset. So I think that's something that the football club is probably taken into sort of their way of thinking more than it is from myself, you know. Mitch mentioned the council. Yeah, politically, the council, the Labour Council anyway, is certainly in a precarious position. And that will have an effect. As I say, we worship the shirt, but I don't think the youngsters do. I think the youngsters are there for the gratification of a match day, and then that's it. They want to have what goes on slightly before, what happens after, and then the game, and then after that, I think they switch off, and then they wait till the next week, and then it all starts again. Whereas we absorb that, we talk about the game, we analyze the game, we talk about past games during that particular week, we talk about what we're hoping to see in the next coming games and this type of thing. And I just don't think youngsters are attuned to that anymore. I think the whole society's changed. But I do honestly, genuinely think that if Newcastle United, because having said all that, we need to look 50 years into the future. We need to look at where football's heading. We need to say, right, can everybody get in that needs and wants to come? And can we cater for all? And at the moment, I don't think you can cater for all in, say, St James's Park. And that's why I think that the club will be looking and saying it's a new stadium for us, guys. It's a new stadium for us. What was Mitchell thinking, or Murray thinking, when he asked the question at the Stack? It was a straw poll. It was a throwaway remark. I don't think that show of hands will have any effect whatsoever on what Newcastle United have already decided, or what their mindset is on a new stadium. I think it was purely there to say, guys, we're still thinking about it. We're still thinking about you. We're taking you into our way of thinking, into our mindset, and we'll come up with a decision that's, you know, the right decision for the football club at the end of the day. But we've listened to you, and I think Mitch is right. And I think you're right, Steve. If that was a show of hands, and the question had been couched in any other way, or even if that was a show of hands on 4 years ago, it would have come up with a totally different answer. What I would say in terms of the pricing structure as well, and the reason I say it's got to be right, even Mike Ashley managed to fill St James's Park to 55,000 or 52,000, but he did it by reducing the prices. He did it by making the prices suitable for all. He had the 10-year plan, which some people are still on. It's the prices have got to be right. You cannot price us people, the normal football fan, out of it, Steve. So it's a critical decision that the football club's got to make. But there's so many other critical decisions they've got to be around it that they've got to get right, because this is the future of Newcastle United going forward.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for the donation, Ian. Thanks very much. I hope you're well. Yeah, Joe, where do you stand on this? What was your views on what you heard coming out of the stack? I mean, there's so many little things you can talk about. It doesn't have to be the stadium. That's obviously the big thing that made the headlines. But there's a hell of a lot of stuff that's come out of that meeting. I mean, Mitchell's relationship with Eddie Howe. He was quite frank about that. He's discussed quite a few things on the stage.
Yeah, apologies for being late, Steve. I didn't see that you're opening. Emotions are going to run high, aren't there? And I think the first thing I'd like to say is 2,000 mid-20-year-olds pissed up in the stack do not represent me at all. So yeah, it was a straw poll. They asked a question for the people who were there, and they got an answer. Whether that means now we're running off to kind of the race course and seeing how much land we can have, and how do we extend metro tracks and stuff, I don't know. I've said a few times before on here, this is a real hearts and minds thing for me. My heart does not want. Why would anybody, with the love of our football club, want to leave St James's Park? But I don't think this is about hearts anymore. I genuinely think this is about revenue. It's about generating revenue. It's about getting as many people to see the product as we can. And I think we're going to have to do it, because I don't see another way of doing it. Can we compete with the sides that have got grounds that are half the size bigger than ours? No, the revenues are phenomenal. Does a new stadium guarantee that we'll instantly win the Premier League within 2 years? Absolutely not. The football's still got to go with it. But what we've got to do is maximise the revenue to get the footballers to be able to win the trophy. So, I think the conversations have started, the straw polls have started, the discussions have started, and at some point, usually when something starts, it picks a bit of momentum up, and they'll start to work on it, won't they? I don't know the geography. I'm not from Newcastle. I don't know where we could put a stadium in the centre of the city that would mean that we don't have to go very far, and we could still drink in the same pubs, and be a stone's throw from Central Station. I'm not entirely sure how feasible that is. But it's the beating heart of our city, isn't it? You can't beat it. You cannot beat getting off that train on a Saturday and going to the pub and starting your day. Would it feel the same if we were then having to get 2 metros and, we were in this soulless Coliseum somewhere 30 miles outside the city centre? No, it won't feel the same. But as Steve said, I don't know whether I'm living on my nostalgia now, because it isn't about me and what I think. Fundamentally, how do we maximise revenue? And the way we do it is we sell twice as many tickets as we can at the moment. So, yeah, the conversations are starting. The stack seems to be now, is that now the stage of Newcastle United, and are only people who get access to the stack going to get access to some of these discussions? I don't know. It just feels like it's time to make a decision now. And I think given what Tottenham Hotspur have done, given what Arsenal have done, given what Manchester United are hoping to do, I can only see one result, whether I think we should move or not. I think we'll get a new stadium.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to say that I agree with Chris Jagger's point. And just 2 seconds, George, because the comments are coming in thick and fast. It's a clever drip marketing campaign that slowly turns opinion in favour of what NUFC want. Yeah, that's part and parcel of it, Chris. Yeah. I agree with you. And Darren says he respects my opinion. Darren, I respect everyone's opinion in the chat, and I respect everyone's opinion, even if I disagree with them. I think that's the way you should be. But my opinion, at this moment in time is that, unless the new stadium is thought about properly, which clearly that's what they're doing, then extending it to James's Park might be the right way forward, and I'm getting messages now, people going, you see me on a downer, listen, I'm fine. I'm structuring this conversation a little bit differently because I've got an opinion about it. And usually I sit back and people go, "Oh, I'd like to hear what your opinion is, Steve." And we'll get, I get a lot of people watch when I do a Q&A. Well, I'm giving you my opinion tonight on the biggest show on this platform, the Three Amigos. I'm giving you my opinion and telling you the reason that I think this. After listening to lots of people this week and not really telling them what my view was, I'm using tonight as an opportunity to get my view across. And I still don't believe that we will fill a stadium that big because we're not winning anything. And I think we need to win stuff. And it's all very well people saying, "Oh, well, there's a lot of people who aren't in the ground who disagree with you." Well, yeah, of course there are. People want to be in the ground, but then that's them looking after themselves because they want to be in the ground. Listen, there isn't a right and wrong answer to this. And that's why there's so many different opinions. And you can't, I put the poll in. Somebody said, put a poll in the chat, Steve. I put a poll in the chat. That means, sweet FA, 150 votes and 79% of you want a new ground. But that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And that's not going to suddenly make Newcastle United go, right, that's it. We're building a new ground. But I've put the poll in to show you exactly how things work. People are now pointing at that poll going, well, that's it. Everybody wants a new ground. It's not the way it works. It's not the way it works.
What I would say, Steve, is, and I agree with you entirely on the until we win something scenario. But what we have to understand is that from putting your plan application in to getting plan permission to cutting your first lump of turf to the final seat being polished and the door opening, we're probably talking 8 to 10 years. And I'm not being flippant on that. I think that's how long it would take them. So I think what we've got a situation where we're looking so far in advance. And what's happening now is we've got to be in a position to start winning trophies. And that's Eddie Howe's job. And that's the job of Paul Mitchell. He's got to make sure Eddie Howe's got the tools to win it, to win something, to then move the club onto the next stage and have that excitement to allow for a stadium to then mature and become something in the future. And I think that we'll have to sometimes view it as a much long-term plan. That I honestly don't think people have realised how long it will take to build that stadium from scratch while still playing it at St James's Park. And I think you seriously are looking at possibly an 8-year plan going forward before we would be sitting in that stadium.
Yeah,
Steve,
go on, George.
The bit that I was going to say before was, and I forgot to mention when I was talking, was, do they ever ask people who outside of the Newcastle what they think about the stadium? Rugby League have just had a big vote where they want Magic Weekend again. Guess where? St James's Park. Look what the boss of New Zealand Rugby says about it. It was him that christened it the Cathedral on the Hill because they loved it so much. And I go to the Magic Weekend when it comes here and listening to the Rugby League guys sitting in the stands. Why do they come? Middle of this town, transport straight to the stadium, hotels around the stadium. It's just so convenient and does everything we want. We really need to think seriously about ditching all of that for a new stadium anyway, because that for me that could be absolute disaster in some ways. So I think that it's a big thing that they've got to get their thinking hats on.
Look, I just see lots of points coming in the chat. Lots of people have got an opinion about this, and it will take a long time to build a stadium. Mark Bayer says there seems to be an obsession. New stadium has to be 80 or 90,000. It doesn't. It could be 65, but light years ahead of what we currently have. Yeah, but if it's going to be 65, you just stick 10,000 on the Gallagher. You've nearly got 65 that way, Mark, haven't you? And people are saying, well, if we win something this season, does that mean we're a winning team? Well, of course it does, because we've won something. But it's sustained, not doing a Leicester and winning the Premier League and then not winning anything else other than winning the FA Cup and then struggling with relegation. That's not being a successful team. You've got to do what Man City have done, win, or what Man United or Liverpool have done, Arsenal have done. That's when Newcastle arrive as a real top 4 team. At the moment, we're flirting with the idea, but we're not a top 4 team. And until we get to that level, why do we need a new stadium? I'm not saying don't extend it St James's, but tell me why we need a new stadium. Don't say PSR, because it doesn't change overnight. And then you've heard it's not just a case of building the new stadium and it's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take 4 or 5 years, possibly.
I think the point about the drip PR exercise is exceptionally astute. And I tell you what showed me that this week was to see Michael Martin writing an editorial for True Faith saying we should move to a new ground, when he and I clashed heads back as far as 2008 about new grounds and staying at St James's Park, and he was dead set against it, and even once refused to publish an article I'd written about moving to a new ground because he was that dead set against it. And now he's on board, and that's phenomenal PR from the club, if you ask me.
Yeah. We'll park Michael Martin there, I think. Let's lighten the mood slightly. Yes, Steve, definitely. We will lighten the mood a little bit with Tweet of the Week. And some belters this week. How do you talk without a brain? Oh, I'm a Liverpool fan, says the Scarecrow. Very good. Star Wars, quite prominent in my inbox this week. I love this. The mozzarella falcon from Pizza Hut. I love that. I love it.
It's a beauty.
It is, isn't it? Carrying on with the food. Fancy some of these, lads? Some whole-bodied slugs packed in water for low-sodium diet. Slip down a treat, lads. Slip down a treat. And if you're looking for some cooking ideas for this weekend, lads, why not have 50 ways to eat cock? Healthy chicken recipes with balls, lads. Thank you to Jimmy for that. Great stuff, mate. Good luck with your cooking this weekend. Talking of balls, well, we've got a nice pair of coconuts here. Monty Python horseshoes that were advertised as. Thanks, Des. And George tried to wake Pepper, but she was unresponsive, sadly. If you eat the head and the arms first of a Greg's gingerbread man, you get a gingerbread ball sack. Thank you for that.
Oh, dear me.
It is an endearing image.
Greg's never publicised that. And there we go. A donut holster, lads. Fantastic, that. Get one of those for Christmas. A personal donut holder. Ideal if you're wearing budgie smugglers, I believe, Mitch. Fancy one of them for Christmas in the Secret Santa?
What?
I bet that suitcase is jam-packed, lads. Paddington's at the picture, so I thought that was useful. And Stu Penman got his tree up, so I've made the effort, lads. There we go. No fuss with that, chaps. No fuss. That's a proper bachelor pad Christmas tree, isn't it? Anyway, here's another Christmas tree, and it's a tree Rex.
Oh yes.
Excellent. And advent calendars. The kids are always going on about advent calendars. They get more and more expensive these days. Well, here's Hannibal Lecter's advent calendar. And if you're looking for a Christmas idea for your grandma and granddad, don't get them this.
Oh, dear me.
Amazon Basics. Wow. And again for your kids here, the 300 playset. I like a good door knocker, lads, but I don't think I'll have this one in my house. No. Decorative objects, figurines, creative men. Fantastic. And if you're easily offended, turn away now. A new type of chocolate has been released this Christmas. You can turn your butthole into a chocolate. Fancy one of them,
wow.
George?
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's all George can say. Wow. It's near to the word that George mentioned a few weeks ago. Anyway, let's go for a drink here one day, lads. They don't do Malverno, but they do a good cup of tea.
The wonky teapot.
The wonky teapot. And slow down. I do not want dust in my beer, says the guy at this allotment. Following on the beer trend. Rain this way, beer that way.
Very clever.
And this was spotted by an eagle-eyed viewer. Ride. And look what's on its way to ride. Is that Peter Kay driving that?
I think that must be.
A fine example of sophisticated British humour here. And Titanic cuisine. My heartburn will go on. Excellent. I like this as well. No phones in the bathroom. If you were in the bathroom for more than 10 minutes, a manager will conduct a smell test. And if they do not smell any number 2, you will be written up.
Weird.
God.
And get yourself into the septic tank emptying company, shite shifters. And why couldn't the toilet paper cross the road? It got stuck in the crack, of course.
Oh,
Thank
Jesus.
you, Gary. Mitch has had a few ideas at his new place in Dubai. When you've gone through a phase and don't know what to do with all your gear. And all the Pringle ladies, all the Pringle ladies, all the Pringle ladies, all the Pringle ladies, get the hand stuck.
Oh, dear.
And what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
Dougie, don't encourage him, man.
And did you hear Julie Andrews will no longer endorse cheap lipstick, lads? It crumbles easily and makes her breath smell. She explained, the super color fragile lipstick gives me halitosis.
Oh.
As you know, I do like to write a poem a day, lads. It's something that I promised Adrian Cox from Bad Manners, and I've only got a month to go, less than a month to go now before that task is finished. I'm going to continue. I enjoy doing them. But I do like it when people respond, when I stick them out on Twitter. So I wrote this on the 18th. I once had a dog called Roxette. I won the canine on a bet. Her name was quite grand, named after the band, which was quite bizarre for a pet. So that was mine. Okay, and that dog is actually called Roxette, by the way. And I got a reply from Ray. It's quite a bizarre name for a pet, but not a name to regret. If she can chase a ball like Wall Lewis Hall, there's really no need to fret.
Well,
Nice
Henry.
one. Nice one.
Rob Spring, well done, Rob. Excellent, mate. Thank you for that. If you want to ever reply to them, do it, and I'll feature them on the show. Could be a new little thing. My cat staging a tour murder to have me locked up because dinner was 5 minutes late. And another Star Wars one. Only a Star Wars fan will see it.
Yeah. Good one and all.
Jimmy, you got some good responses in your inbox there as well, and in your chat, I think, after that as well. I like this as well. Darth Vader's rarely photographed wife, Ella Vader.
Oh, elevator. Oh, dear.
And therapist. Your wife says you never buy her flowers. Is that true? The man says, to be honest, I never knew she sold flowers. And I'm sure you've all experienced this on a flight once, lads. Flight attendant asked, "Can I offer you some free headphones?" Guy, definitely, but how did you know my name is Phones?
Oh.
Just what did you do in there? Asks the bed. What do you call a moose with no name? Anonymous. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. Using our Facebook group there. Join the Facebook group, NUFC Matters. And we did see the fight. Tyson, of course, against Jake Paul. Netflix have offered Jake Paul $50 million to push George Foreman down the stairs, apparently. It'll be a riveting show, that. And one of the biggest mistakes I've ever done, lads, back in 1987, these two people came knocking on my door about a sponsored walk. I ended up sponsoring them at £2 a mile. And when you realise you were never on a walk again, look at the dog's face. And when your boss asks for proof that you're in the hospital.
Brilliant.
I'll leave that on a little bit longer because people will be starting to think about how they can get out of work for going out on the Christmas night out. Chuck Norris apparently was a kamikaze pilot 7 times. Never had any Chuck Norris ones in here. That was a thing years ago. Maybe we could start that off again. And this is we're coming to pantomime season. Jack and the Beanstalk, etc. Magic Beans. Oh yes, we are. Never buy a dog when you're drunk, Mitch. And I'm a big NWA fan, and this did tickle us. So thanks for this, Jimmy. Remember Ice Cube? Well, this is him now. Feeling old yet?
Very good, Jimmy.
I laughed too much at that one. And 11 years ago today, my pal James came running out shouting, "It's a boy!" with tears streaming down his face. We never went back to Thailand. And select all the images of a turkey. We've all done this verify thing. I think that was excellent, by the way. That was on X as well. I'm sure it's been probably removed by now. Tried reading the dictionary in bed last night. I didn't finish it. I got up to pee.
Yay!
God.
Well done, Ian. Loved that. And you saw 5 people beat up a guy in an electric bike. Why didn't you help? I thought 5 was enough. And this one, why is the grandfather clock called that, Grandpa? Well, because the pendulum hangs really low and swings from side to side. Look like you, George. That was Lookalike.
Yeah.
This is great as well. Thank you, Helen. Keep calm and try an ale. Unfortunately for the woman, keep calm and try something other than an ale. Brilliant stuff. And sorry, we can't play Fairy Tale of New York this year. It's too offensive. Anyway, here's Cardi B rapping about her George.
Yeah.
I love this as well. Babe, the vacuum isn't sucking anymore. Oh, must have got married while we were out.
Oh dear.
Number 2 this week. Good morning, Mrs. Goggins. Is everything okay? No, it isn't, Pat. The doctor's put me on some sort of steroids and I've started to grow a penis. Anabolic? No, just a penis, Pat. And the winner this week. See, I am in a good mood, everybody. Is this one. This is a reminder to all employees that our pipe system is fragile. Someone has once again left excrement, and number 2, the width, length, and girth of a Pringles can. We had to call a plumber this time to clear out the system after a failed flush. Overflowed the toilet. Whoever is leaving behind these large pieces of excrement during their bathroom break, please try to pinch it off at the snack-sized Pringles can rather than unloading the full amount at once. Thank you.
Yeah, me.
Brilliant tweet that. That is tweet of the week. Hope that's cheered you all up after me rants. We will have a quick ad break and we'll be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. Email them info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Congratulations to them on their Travel and Tourism Award 2024. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges. All excursions included. Find them at their website www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And don't forget, we are also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify and other podcast providers. If you get the time, please hit the subscribe button. It does do us a big favour. Hit the like button, which is the thumb under the video. That helps the channel grow. And click share to share to your other social medias. You can also hit the join button and become a member. Some dates for your diary. In aid of Newcastle Cat and Dog Shelter, the Long Sands play the Clooney. That takes place on Saturday, January the 4th, 2025, with support from Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band. Tickets pre-sale are £15 from newcastlelegends.com or from the venue direct. Peter Beardsley will be doing a talk-in at the Tyneside Irish Centre
That takes place on the 10th of January. Tickets are £30. VIP tickets are £60, and you can get them from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with the entertainers takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House in Newcastle on the 24th of January. Kevin Scott, Steve Watson, Steve Howie, John Beresford, Rulf Box, Peter Beardsley, Rob Lee, Keith Gillespie, Liam O'Brien, Darren Peacock, Paul Bracewell, Lee Clark, and Killer Kill Klein are all going to be there with Gibbo, and you can get your tickets from the box office 0191 243 1171 or the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. Lee Clark will be at the Gateshead Leisure Centre. That is on the 31st of January, and tickets available from the Leisure Centre 0191 250 5066. Les Ferdinand will be at the Newcastle O2 City Hall the 6th of April 2025. That is a 12 o'clock start until 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. And Will Scott's book on the entertainers is out now. £18.99, over 380 pages, and a lot of unseen photographs. You can buy that book now from newcastlelegends.com. And we do have some fanzines remaining. If you want to buy an NUFC Matters fanzine, issue 1 is still available, again from newcastlelegends.com. And please take your time to flip onto our other channel, The Word on Blake 7. Please hit the subscribe button and help that channel grow.
JSD says, my daughter bought me a hat with Mr. Grumpy on it. I wear it every day. We're proud. We're all entitled to a rant. Yeah, we are. 100%. Darren, I can't tell you why, with regard to Dementia Matters. We've been asked not to raise any more money for them because they are going through financial issues now, unfortunately. Their money that we put towards Dementia Matters, the £5,000 that were raised from the end of season due, and the, what else did we do? We did the, oh God, I've got a blank. We raised £5,000 anyway. We've been thanked for that.
Well, the fanzine, Steve, the fanzine.
That's right. So we handed over £5,000, but it looks like it's going to close. They are working on a rescue deal for the place. Thankfully, the 10 residents have been moved from there to the Malhotra's residence, which overlooks the race course at Gosforth. Thankfully, the families don't have to pay anything more either. But as long as they're getting dementia care, that's the main thing. The daycare is still in operation, but they reckon that could be finished by the end of this month. It's a big building, Darren. It's a huge building, and whether you've ever passed it, but it's not financially viable. And the guy who's gone in as the CEO over the last 4 months didn't have to ring us and say, don't raise any more money. But he just said, look, I think if you do, there could be a situation develop where that money ends up being, paid to people who, debtors or whatever, you know what I mean, if the place went out of business. But it's not out of business yet. They still do the daycare, and they are still working on hopefully keeping the place open. But it's not great. It's not great news as far as Dementia Matters is concerned. But they were very thankful for everybody at NUFC Matters, and we got 2 nice letters from them thanking us for the money we raised.
People from the local authority watching this programme in North Tyneside, Newcastle or Northumberland should be hanging their heads in shame. Listen to what you've just said.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were telling you all we were hoping to raise some money for a minibus. We put out a couple of feelers. We spoke to somebody who it looked as if we might be able to get the minibus sorted, but it doesn't look as if it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, and I think they put it out last week in the press, so I thought most of you probably would have seen it. There was no need for me to go on and mention it either. We do support the cat and dog shelter in Newcastle, and I think most of you will know, especially those of you who've got pets, will know that Christmas time is the worst possible time for people to go and buy a dog or a cat as a gift, and then for them end up getting it given away. So, we've got some good contacts up there. Joe Allen, of course, who is on this platform on a regular basis now, volunteers at the cat and dog shelter. So we thought, with Christmas being a key time for them and them needing funds, that we would help them over the course of the next couple of events that we do. The food bank, we've helped them massively. As you know, we got a letter which we put out a couple of weeks ago. We helped raise just short of £20,000 for the food bank, I think, or just over £20,000, which was great. We got a nice letter from them over the course of 4 years, and again, that's thanks to you guys. But yeah, the Long Sands gig will be the first thing that we'll be doing for the cat and dog shelter, and we've got a couple of other things planned. We've also had a meeting with another charity who we are quite keen to help next year. And, you know, we'll keep you in the loop with that when we know a bit more. But there's going to be a few things that we are, there's going to be a few other things that we're going to be involved with, certainly to help local charities. And the most important thing for us on this platform is that we help local charities, and money goes into, into local charities, and it stays in the area. I've had 1 or 2 emails from people who'd heard about the Dementia Centre having problems or having issues, and asking if we can help them. I haven't got back in touch with you because I'd rather stay with Dementia Matters if we can. If they get through this particular crisis, I'd rather stay with them because it means a lot to me and the people who have got involved. But yeah, David says, can't raise money because they're going through a financial issue. The world has gone completely mad. Yeah, it's just, unfortunately, the way that they described it to me was decisions that have been made in the past have come back to bite them on the backside. And the guy was really fair. What he said was, he said, look, he says, from our perspective, I can't say whether those decisions were right or wrong, because at the time they might have felt as if it was the right thing to do. But lots of charities have really suffered because of COVID. Things have changed, and it's just, it's just very disappointing. It's very upsetting when these things happen. More importantly, it's upsetting for those people who relied heavily on that centre. But well done to them for getting people rehoused. You know, that is great. Like, so.
I mean, just to put it in plainly for people who don't understand, what the guy's doing is absolutely right. There's an irony there. One of the debtors might actually be the bloody local authority. And how would you feel if your money was going to the bloody council?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the full ins and outs, and I don't really want to go down that avenue. It's not my place to do that. And I've only, I only answered the question because Darren's asked it, and it's a valid question, and it is sad. And David, no, my rant is about football. It's got nothing to do with that. It genuinely hasn't. You're misreading the room there, David. I genuinely have very honest, sound opinions about the ground. I'm very honest about it. I don't think we should move from St James's Park. I'd rather build on it. But I know I'm in the minority. It seems I'm in the minority anyway. And Darren says, who asked the question? That's so sad. Let's hope to get through. George, you're so right. Why can't the council help the people that need dementia care? Well done, Steve. You do so much good in Newcastle. Well, thank you, mate. And I don't do it for that. But thank you very much. And that's great. But the council are in just as big a mess, across the country. The council don't have money. This country's ruined. It's spoiled. It's knackered. But this isn't a political show. Let us move on. And I haven't, because we've been talking so much, I tend to miss things and we don't get a chance to play the music that I know most of you love to hear. And that's it. The day I met, where we asked you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. 2 today. Dougie Morris sent me this a while back. The day that Jackie and himself met Matty Longstaff in the Stack. So thank you for that, Dougie. Excellent. And we will be doing, hopefully, Geordie's here. Geordie's there this week. So you will get a chance to get your fix of Al Walid and the lads. And Al Walid sent me this. And he says, can you please show this tonight? I want to surprise my son. His name is Tamin. And there he is with Eddie Howe on their recent short break to Riyadh. And I just want to say thanks to Al Walid. He did send us a lot of footage from there. We used a little bit of it. And thank you as well to Al Walid for the videos and everything. It was fantastic. Great stuff. So much appreciated. Okay, an hour and 10 minutes in, George. Let's talk about the other subject that everybody was wanting to talk about at the top of the show, and that was Tom Dixon, and lots of people got in. What's your thoughts on the Premier League's APT rule changes that were passed with a vote of 16-4? Man City, Aston Villa, Newcastle and Nottingham Forest all voted against them and lost. John says anti-competition, protectionism, restraint of trade and restrictive practice are not good. Do you think at some stage the likes of us, Villa and City will join together to take on the EPL? George, thoughts on that today?
Well, the first thing I'd say is I wish the would be taken on. It's at the time where somebody needs to challenge, and it's because it's ridiculous. If you've written a set of rules which a top KC says are unlawful, and you try and tinker with them, anybody who's been in any planning situation when you've got a plan that went wrong, if your solution is just to tinker around the edges and try and put right inside the plan what they think was wrong, you're going to get a worse plan. And that worst plan, as far as I'm concerned, is going to produce things that are still unlawful. I can't see how they can put that right with tinkering. So it's a mess. It was a mess before. In my opinion, it's an even bigger mess now, because the implications for the four clubs that were mentioned, but us in particular in Manchester City, are enormous. And how can something be deemed to be competitive or fair when everybody bar their dog, in fact, including their dog, calls part of those rules the Newcastle rules? I mean, if that doesn't do something for it, it should. So I wish I could be more optimistic, but to see them tinkering on the fringes like it looks like they are, just suggests to me an even bigger mess than we've already got. So, as the first question put on, is it time somebody had to go back? I think it is. I know it seems our owners are reluctant for a variety of reasons, but how long can this be allowed to go on? Because we talk about all sorts of fairness off and on the field. This is probably the biggest issue of them all, and they're dodging the column because they're tinkering and faffing around and colluding with one another to get all of this rubbish through and leaving others on the outside looking in. Well, it's time that was changed. I wish I could be more optimistic, but I can't. It seems to me what they're doing is making a bad job worse.
Strong views. Mitch, what's your thoughts?
Very succinct and relevant. I think it's worth looking at what's relevant to Newcastle United within these changes. The suggestion is this is a rollback to 2021. So therefore, the so-called Newcastle amendments are no longer in play. Does that give us a little bit more wiggle room? Yeah, probably. Does it give us what we should be able to do? Probably not. You have a set of rules that so many people, including significant legal individuals, are saying are just not fit for purpose and are there as part of a bigger PSR picture, which was always designed to keep the status quo and doesn't really matter about longevity and to stop another Portsmouth happening or anything like that. It's all about the status quo remaining. So a rollback to 21 gives us a little bit of wiggle room, but not ideally what we'd like. You then look within the voting structure. I can totally see why Man City and us have voted against. Villa and Forest both have multi-club owners who have other businesses that they would like to use to pump money into their clubs, and therefore, of course, the APT rules restrict them in similar ways to us. And so it's quite obvious why they've voted. Why have Everton and Wolves changed their tune? Well, both of those have shareholder loans, and it would suggest to me that shareholder loans are not being brought into the APT rules as it was suggested they should be. And therefore, self-protectionism takes over rather than the bigger picture. The other factor you've got to look at with Everton is they have new owners on the horizon who are American. And therefore, the current owners vote in the way that the new owners want them to. And so there's a lot of self-interest in little sort of areas of politics going on here that we have to be aware of. Is it about time they were challenged? I think Man City are going to go for it anyway. I don't think we have to do a damn thing. I think, again, we can let Man City unleash their dogs of war on this one, because it's quite clear that a lot of people of legal mind and sound legal mind feel that the APT rules, even tinkered with, are not fit for purpose, and therefore, there's a challenge coming no matter what happened. Those with short minds and those who are happy to keep the status quo based on self-interest, I think, need to look at themselves hard in the mirror. Leicester City, for example, voting in favour. when their shirt front sponsor has just gone bust. Their front of shirt sponsor, who was waved through by the Premier League, by the way, quite happily, seems never really had the money and never had the financial stability, and yet that passed tests, and yet they're quite happy to throttle and restrict real business with real money, wanting to put money into the game via Newcastle United and other teams. I think it's quite pathetic, really. The Premier League know they're on shaky ground. They knew they were going to drum up the support via the clubs because of the way that everything, when push comes to shove and people are going to vote, they go self-interest rather than bigger picture every time. It's more than frustrating. I do wonder what happens when we eventually do take our gloves off. There's surely got to be a time where we say, right, so this, we're all in now. Will it be now? No, I don't think so. Do I think we've missed an opportunity to create a bit of mischief and wreak havoc? Yes. But does that seem to be the style of our owners at the moment? No. Perhaps I'm the maverick. Perhaps I'm the one that would be wanting them to do things that they shouldn't. But I think, David, I don't think they're going to sell. I think when they do get paid off for the EPL, I think you'll see the gloves come off legally.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll sell up. We are one of their sporting jewels in the crown, and that's the way we will be treated. However, as they've done with the golfing battles, as they've done with other battles in other areas of sport, they play a very fine balance, because if we go in all in two-footed on the Premier League now, there's still that wiggle room for the Premier League and their clubs and their paid journalists to tell the world, see, this is what these nasty people were going to do all along anyway. And I think we're playing a little smarter than that. In this part of the region, people like to walk away from a negotiation table with a win-win.
Yeah.
However, you're seeing the other side of the business in this region with Man City now. When you do piss them off and they eventually lose their shit, you've got a tsunami coming at you. And I can promise you this, a tsunami that PAF could raise is going to be inevitably bigger than anything that comes from Abu Dhabi, because they've got 10 factors of 10 times the wealth. When do they eventually lose their shit with it? Don't know. Really don't know. Do I believe negotiations have been going on with the Premier League behind the scenes? Yes. Do I believe there's contact and discussion happening? Yes, because I think that's the way our owners like to do things. It's frustrating for us watching on the outside, thinking, well, come on, have a go. When the time is right, I believe they would. But I've got a feeling they would rather come away from the table with a win that makes them look bigger than everybody else. And at the minute, to be fair, Abu Dhabi are doing all our work for. So there's no need to get involved. They're going full out at hammer and tongs. So crack on. And then out of that aftermath, we could be the great negotiators and come away as everybody's hero. It's again comes back to almost geopolitical subtleties in the way that we behave. But I genuinely believe that the rollback to 21 rules does give us a little bit of wiggle room. Now, will we see some transactions go through? Possibly. I hope so.
Hey, Steve, can I just comment on what Neil said about us being the negotiators? Mm-hmm. Remember what he said about the golf, Grand Prix, motor racing, boxing, you name it, the one.
Yeah, good points. I see the chat's getting taken over with people saying about the show, etc. Listen, I've always said about NUFC Matters, when I get sick of doing it, I'll just pack it in and nobody will be taking it over because I'll just move on. I've done that all my life. I reinvent myself and change and move on, and that's just the way it'll be. And don't think that, people are putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5. That's not going to happen anytime soon. But there will be one day where you will wake up and I will have just gone from social media. I will do it. I will. It's not an idle threat. I use social media to promote events and promote this show and whatever. I don't like having social media. I've never liked it. I've always disliked it, and I've had to fight many battles on social media. I've been trolled horrendously on social media. My life has been picked apart on social media, but I'm still here, and I'm still doing what I do best, which is talk about Newcastle United and give my opinion on Newcastle United. And I will always give my opinion on Newcastle, but it just might not be on here. But for now, don't worry, and we're not going anywhere. We're not suddenly going to disappear. But life moves on, things move on. And what I meant by YouTube fatigue was that there is fatigue, I think, with Newcastle channels. There are so many Newcastle channels, and everyone has an opinion. And at the moment, it's big. YouTube is big. Lots of new people have come along over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, and you'll watch some, you'll hate some, and whatever. But ultimately, with social media and YouTube, etc., it's a fad. It'll pass. Something else will come along. We've already got a new one. Twitter, Threads was a massive disappointment, but now we've got another social media account that's come along, which is trying to take Twitter's stage over. Blue Sky has arrived. Will that be any good? Who knows? You've dropped a lot of hints lately. Yeah, because I owe it to people out there. If I do just decide I'm not going to do it anymore, then at least you've been forewarned. But yeah, listen, it's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm sure the lads will tell you if I feel like I'm having a down day. Lots of the other lads, you'll be inboxing them now going, is Steve really going to pack in? Blah, blah, blah. But listen, no, not at the minute. But I'm just warning you, it'll happen one day. And enjoy the shows while you can. Support the shows while you can. All of the shows, not just this one and not just the professionals, not just Talk of the Tune. Give them all a watch in your spare time. Might change my mind. That's all I'm saying. Steve, over to you in APT or ATP or PSR or whatever. Give us your views.
Exactly. I think what was the most interesting was the statement from the EPL. They said that the rules are to safeguard the financial stability, integrity, and competitive balance of the league. They do totally the opposite. It's unbelievable. They've basically tinkered around the edges with a form of words that they think that their legal people find acceptable. And they've managed to find and convince 14 clubs within the Premier League that everything's rosy. The court cases will end because a lot of the pressure that has been bearing down on the Premier League has been from clubs who are sick to death of the cost, the legal costs that are impacting everybody. And that was one of the factors in the Aston Villa CEO's statement when he said, look, we need to bring an end to this. And he wanted them to have a 90-day grace because he wanted the whole thing to be properly debated, not just clubs turning up at a Premier League meeting on a Friday morning and by 9:30 having all accepted whatever's been told to them by Richard Masters and a few legals that are sitting in the room. I was gobsmacked because the meeting was taking place. It was kicking off at what you presumed would be a sensible time, after everyone's had their breakfast and they've all managed to, have the niceties. It was 9:38 when the statement came out that the Premier League had the vote, and it was like, what? Where's the debate? When did the debate happen? Were they in there from 7 a.m? I very much doubt it. Billionaires don't get up at 7 a.m. for a start. Some of them are just going to bed at 7 a.m, I'm sure. But it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Everton and Wolves, what did they do? They flipped. We know that. They flipped for a reason, and Mitch has summed it up quite eloquently. They've all got various debts, and they don't want to know. Chelsea fell on their debt pile, didn't they? And that's what Chelsea do. Chelsea have shouted their mouth off. They go on and on. They'll according to Chelsea, they're everybody's friend. They were Amanda's friend, Todd Bowley, this and that. And at the end of the day, Todd Bowley does what Todd Bowley wants to do for his own club, and he convinces everyone that he's the bee's knees. Chelsea are the bee's knees, and then they fell in line. So he conned everybody that they were going to be part of it. Well, Spurs and Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, we expected what was to come because they were going to go against City regardless. We know that. But it's the Brightons, it's the Bournemouths, the Brentfords, the cowardly clubs in Fulham and Palace, Leicester and Southampton. Some of those are panicking because they're not going to be in the league at the end of the season. So they're wanting to make sure that as far as the Premier League, they keep fighting and they're wanting the Premier League to keep fighting against the regulator because they want the parachute payments to remain. They don't want to get involved. They need that. They need those parachute payments should they go down. And all of those clubs, the vast majority of those clubs, if you look at it, Palace, Leicester, Southampton, they are worried that they're going to be the ones that are they're going to fall by the wayside. So that they'll have had that kind of thought in their mind and that process. The competitive balance doesn't exist in the league. We know that. We knew that before they went into the room. It certainly doesn't exist when they've come out of the room. What I would say is that from my perspective, I see us as a football club, or rather our owners as the PIF, I see them fighting a different battle on a different stage. And I think they're fighting football and gaining the influence within UEFA and in particular FIFA. And I think what they're going to do, they're going to use that and that kind of political leverage to work through the system, if you like, and eventually have those type of organizations turning around to the Premier League and say, you're going to have to fall in line with this, because it will be very, very easy to do. All that needs to happen is UEFA need to change their rules on PSR, and before you know it, everybody, the Premier League will go, "Whoa, yes, that's great, yeah, no problem, just do that." Just so I think we're probably working it in a different path and just doing it in a slightly different way to Man City. Man City are going in because they have to, because they feel as though they were aggrieved. Man City, apparently, for all we understand, is they had a massive sponsorship deal lined up with Etihad, and that was blocked. That's why they're fighting it, because that's what they had done, all that work, and it was a huge amount of money, and the rest of them panicked when they found out how much that Man City were going to have brought into their football club on that. Newcastle didn't have the sort of sponsorship deal lined up, and you can tell that by the people that we brought in. You know, that disregarding Adidas, and we don't know what the Adidas deal is, but when Man United have got a 900 million pound 10-year deal with Adidas, I don't think we're anywhere near that. You know, we'd be lucky if we've got 90 million over 10 years in comparison to what Man United have got. So City were going down a different path, and the others have panicked. They've panicked, and they're thinking, well, what else can they pick up on top of that? Because City would have then used that benchmark of what Adidas were getting to squeeze money out of Puma or from another shirt company, and so it was all a big game to them. But we're the ones who has put the fear of God into them. But I honestly think we're going down a different path.
One of the other things that's worth mentioning is the rollback of the rules also is taking out the database that they used for comparing values of sponsorships, and also is taking away how that database was actually used and accessed. And that was one of the things that stopped that Man City deal, was this database or whatever it is that they have, that they used to value sponsorships. And
almost like a ready reckoner, wasn't it? You know, it was like
the point we've made repeatedly. Chelsea's hotel deals was actually probably one of the easiest things to value, because it's a property deal in London. You've got benchmarks all over the place. But a shirt front sponsor and stadium sponsor from the Middle East, what's that actually worth to a company? It's far more difficult to analyse. It's far more difficult to regulate and look at. And yet it comes back to, they're still putting deals through for clubs with companies that are maybe even dubious if they actually exist, let alone
Yes.
whether they've got the right value and money to do it. And yet you have real businesses wanting to pump real cash into the system that are being throttled, and it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense in the long term.
That would be the Chelsea hotel deal that Chelsea put on their books last year to get them through PSR that didn't land in land registry and didn't clear HMRC until this week, a year later.
Yeah.
That Chelsea deal, is that the one?
That
And
Chelsea deal.
you're right about
by
the money.
which time they might have bought it back and sold it to somebody to themselves again.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing in the rules stopping that either.
Unbelievable. Joe, thoughts on this?
Just, I'm not surprised, Steve. You've got clubs jumping ship left, right, and centre. Last week they were in favour of one thing. This week they're not. You've got Masters, changing rules. We've brought a rule in, and then we might get took to court by people who, let's be honest, they can't fight. There's only going to be one winner in this, in my opinion. And I think when you start, you're not just dictating a tin pot organisations. They're trying to argue the toss with some of the globe's financial superpowers. So I can only see one win in all this. But I think what was striking for me was, I'm not a fan of international football. We've had no football for a fortnight. The Premier League's back tomorrow. And yet the biggest news today was rule changes and Richard Masters and what Man City's lawyers are going to do about it. Who knows where it's going to go? I agree with the lads. I think at some point the gloves have got to actually come off. I don't think this is about putting boxing gloves on anymore. I think it's about actually taking them off. And I think if Man City are going to show the teeth, let Man City show the teeth. I think we sit really pretty in all this. We just sit on the fence. We see what plays out. And, I think Steve Hastie's right. Why go to Masters when you can go all the way at the top, when you can go to FIFA and sort it out? They're the links. That's the pull that we've got. Richard Masters doesn't know what he's doing. Richard Masters has never known what he's doing. I think it's really obvious that what we do is we protect a certain number of clubs because essentially they represent the Premier League's brand. Man City completely upset the apple cart. Leicester City completely upset the apple cart. And now Newcastle United are on the verge of doing the same. And Manchester United and Arsenal and Liverpool don't like it. And I think at some point, Richard Masters is going to run out of lives. For me, what type of chief exec can run an outfit like this? They don't know their ass from their elbow. He doesn't know the rules that he set last week and whether they're still going to be valid next week. And he's playing in he's playing in a playground now with some serious players. This isn't just the owner of Southampton. It isn't a 10th removed hedge fund, associated with clubs like Crystal Palace. He's dealing with the big boys, and I think at some point, the likes of Nick DeMarco have already warned him. You just keep going, pal, and we'll see you in court, and then see how clever you are, and see what impact that has, with your mates at Liverpool and Manchester United at Arsenal. So let's talk about football. Let's get on with what's important. Let Man City have the day, and let Newcastle United have the last laugh.
Okay, good stuff. Good points, well made. Just want to say well done to Bruno's Magic Hat, Young Will. His charity fundraising. It will go. This was before the game, lads. Did a little guard of honour.
Aye. No hate you, Steve.
Bladen Races played. There's Baz, who asked us to commentate on his YouTube channel with Joe Allen. But there's Young Will. Well, yeah, very good. Brilliant stuff. Raised a lot of money, raised 20 grand over the course of the last few years, going to different events, putting different events on, getting signed stuff, doing little auctions and stuff like that. I lost count. I lost count actually of the score in the game, and that was probably because one of our viewers was in goal. Dunnell was actually in goal for a majority of the game, and I did manage to get a little bit of footage, lads, and I didn't like what I had to see.
It's a little bit earlier before the game, Joe Allen. Sorry. Handed this over to the goalkeeper.
Hide it.
Yes, Dunnell, there it is. Everybody's seeing it now. You're taking a bung before the game. Dunnell did the most incredible thing I've ever seen on a football pitch. The ball was going at least 10 metres wide. Dunnell managed to claw the ball with his foot and head the ball over the top of his head and into the net for a goal for the other team. There was talk of Bruce Grobbelaar and everything else, but well done, everybody. Joking aside, Dunnell, you did very well, mate. You must be covered in bruises after that game the next morning. But well done, everybody who turned up, and it was a good laugh doing the commentary on Black and White Eyes. For most of it anyway. We did 20 minutes, used all our best material, and then realised that Baz hadn't put the mic on. So then me and Joe did the final 40 minutes again, regurgitating the same material. Not the first time Joe's regurgitated material, that's what he said. Exactly. But anyway, thank you to everybody who came along. It was freezing cold. That's why I wasn't playing. No, I had a party to go to that night, and I didn't want to end up in the RVI. But anyway, it was good. Thank you to everybody who came. And as always now, we look ahead to the game. Newcastle, of course, playing the final game of the weekend. Newcastle will be playing on Monday night, 8 o'clock in front of the TV cameras. Here is Tyne Stato to get ready for the game on Monday.
Hello everyone. Newcastle United against West Ham United Monday night at St. James's Park. West Ham United is one of the preferred opposition for Newcastle when it comes to home games in the Premier League. 26 games since 1993 with 13 wins for Newcastle, including that famous turnaround last season 4-3 with 2 goals by Harvey Barnes in the last 15 minutes of the game. When it comes to players, actually, Alexander Isak scored in his last 3 Premier League games, and he can make it 4th in a row for the first time in his Premier League career. When it comes to overall number of games, he also scored in the Carabao Cup game against Chelsea, so that can make it 5 in a row if he scores on Monday. He scored also for Sweden in the first game, but he missed a penalty in the second one in the international break. Callum Wilson could be back for Newcastle, and his favourite opposition in the Premier League is also West Ham United. He has scored 5 goals for Newcastle and 7 for Bournemouth, total of 12 against them. Alexander Isak also has scored 5 goals against West Ham in the Premier League, his favourite opposition alongside Tottenham Hotspur. There are a couple of milestones on Monday if both players play. Fabian Schär can make his 200th appearance for Newcastle United, and what a signing he has been with 199 games so far and 17 goals. He has scored in the Premier League, in the UEFA Champions League and in the Carabao Cup. He has still not scored in the FA Cup. Tino Livramento, believe it or not, can make his 50th appearance for Newcastle after making his first for the England national team. See you on Monday, away lads.
And see you next weekend. Looking forward to seeing Andre. Lee Clark and I will be with Andre doing the Bulgarian Supporters Association's annual do. Looking forward to heading to Sofia. It is time to play his music. What you got for us, Joe?
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, unsurprisingly, Newcastle are massive favourites to win this game. Good reading this weekend. We are 8-15 to win the football match. The draw is 17-5, and West Ham are a huge 5-1. Goals are expected in the game, and that's reflected in the 0-0 price of 11-1. As Andrea's just said there, Alex Isak, as you can imagine, I mean, and the lad's on fire at the minute, let's be honest. And again for Sweden, he is just under evens to score any time in the game. Anthony Gordon, 17-10. Joe Willock, just under 4-1. Bruno Guimaraes, just under 5-1. And Big Dan's definitely going to score this week. He is 8-1. Jared Bowen, player I think is really, really good. Mikel Antonio and Danny Ings are all right up there for West Ham. And Bruno's best mate, Lucas Paqueta, he is 6-1 if you think he'll score in the game. In terms of the scores, 1-0 Newcastle, 8-1, and that's the same for 2-0. 3-0 Newcastle, 12-1, and that is also the same for the Penmen. Ones each, 15-2, twos each, 16-1. And if you think West Ham will come to St James's and pick up the points, it is 18-1 for 1-0 West Ham and 35-1 for 2-0 West Ham.
Wow.
Some interesting bets if you're interested in kind of the cards and such like. 6-1 for Bruno and Paqueta to both see a yellow card if they come together in the middle. Big Joe, 5-2. 7-2 if you think there'll be a red card in the game. And I got accused by my favourite steward in the 1892 of being a bit negative recently. So I am going to put my money on Anthony Gordon to score a hat-trick at 45-1. Look after your money, but Newcastle will win on Monday night.
Yep, Big Dan Burn is suspended, of course. So he says the poor odds for Dan Burn, says Mark Byers. But yeah, Joe Linton is one game away from a ban as well, as is Fabian Shaw. Yes, and Newcastle do take on West Ham, 8 o'clock kick-off, St James's Park, live on Sky Sports. And following on from the Arsenal and Nottingham Forest wins, we're trying to get 3 successive wins for the first time since September 2023. There will also be no Sven Botman or Jamal Lascelles or Emil Kraft. He's on the sick list, of course, after confirmation from Eddie Howe at the press conference today that he will be out for 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks after surgery. Dan Burn serving a 1-match ban, and optimism that Callum Wilson could feature for the first time. Cautious optimism, I would say, but he hasn't played for so long. Also news that Kieran Trippier has returned to training, but it's uncertain whether Monday's game is going to be too early for him. Alexander Isak, though, is in fine form, has been away on international duty and scored as well. Also had a goal disallowed and a penalty chalked, penalty missed as well. So, yeah, he's still firing on all cylinders, Isak. So that's got to be a good sign for us. As for West Ham, Fulkrug remains out. Areola has returned to the squad, though. On the road so far this season, West Ham have won at Crystal Palace, drawn at Fulham and Brentford, and lost at Liverpool, Spurs and Forest. And their manager has been to Newcastle at St James's before with Wolves, of course, and they were beaten 2-1 by Newcastle in March 2023. The referee always plays an interesting part at St James's. We've not had the best of luck with referees this season. It is Craig Pawson. It's his 3rd appearance this season after the 1-0 home win over Southampton and the 0-0 draw at Everton. And on VAR, it is Chris Kavanagh. So interesting stuff. Anything going on the roads and rails? Anyone using the 4:45 Newcastle to London King's Cross service on Tuesday the 26th, it'll leave Newcastle at 04:38. And don't forget the Tyne Bridge refurbishment is still ongoing with one lane in each direction closed at all times until further notice. So there will be congestion and delays. Food Bank, of course, will also be outside St James's Park at their usual place around Strawberry Place. And Jamie Rubin is matching all donations as usual. So, George, lots of positivity in the chat. I'm always wary when there's positivity and people are starting to say 4-0 and 5-0. There's always a potential banana skin. But yeah, really, Newcastle should have too much for West Ham, especially with the way they're playing and the way we're playing. George, what's your feelings about this game on Monday night?
Well, Mr. Positive as usual, I'm afraid. Sorry to bore you, but I'll be disappointed if we don't come away with a 4-0. Because again, you've said it, because the way they're playing, the way we are playing. The other thing is just a comment about the international break. The sad thing is, there's been so many good things for Newcastle United in this international break, and we haven't had time to talk about any of them. But in other ways, other than on the field, well, on the field and out off the field, it's been good for Newcastle United. But I'm very optimistic about Monday night, and I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to give Steve's shids a kick in every time we score.
Mitch, what's your feelings with this game then at the weekend?
I think we have an opportunity to lay a marker down going into the Christmas period. I don't think there's anywhere harder to come on a cold winter's night than St James's Park under the lights. And the way the fixtures are working over the festive period and in the run-up to the new year, we're going to have a few of those games. And ask PSG what it was like to come to St James's Park under the lights in the midweek when it was a bit colder in the northeast. There's very few places that are harder to come to. I think even Pep Guardiola's made allusion to that in his Man City documentary recently about what a difficult place St James's Park is when we got the win in Marseilles and when we're all in unison. We know that as fans, we've all been in St James's and experienced it. That weird synergy that happens, and you never know who sparks it off. Does the crowd inspire the team? Does the team inspire the crowd? But once they start to bounce off each other, it's an absolutely horrible place to come. And for West Ham, coming away on a Monday night, and they're in a not the greatest vein of form. I've seen their fans on social media today clinging on to the fact that they might have a few more players available than they thought. It feels like they're clutching at straws. They're looking for any little glimmer of hope. I would like us to be ruthless. I would like to see a lame duck side come to St James's Park and be put to the sword. To be fair, I would just take 3 points every time. But a performance and a few goals and a statement and a marker laid down would be icing on the cake and the cherry on the top. And I think we've got the opportunity to do that, to remind anybody coming to our place over the next month, it's not a rollover, it's not a place you can come and take your foot off the gas. And I would really like to see Willie that marker down.
Have you got the dice tonight?
I have got the dice tonight.
What's the dice in?
The dice says a very gentle 2-1.
And that's what I'm going for. 2-1. What are you going for, Mitch?
I'll go for a penman, simply because I was with him when the other one come in.
Okay, 3-1 for you. Steve?
This is always an interesting game, isn't it? There's something about West Ham. They arrive at St James's Park full of themselves, full of energy, and then we completely zap them. And Gary's right in his little statement there. West Ham fans are saying at the moment they have no identity. They don't know where the football club is. They don't know where it's heading other than down. They called for Moyes' head, and they lost Moyes, and now they're regretting it, which is often the case. It's an interesting matter. There's a big thing spoken about West Ham, isn't there? The West Ham way, the style of football and all that. And it goes back to this 1966 and having 3 of the World Cup winning team. They've had some shocking teams. They're like us. They've lived on past glories or potential glories. But they're a working man's club. I feel for some of the West Ham fans because, and we started off the show right at the beginning talking about stadiums, Stephen, about moving. Look what's happened to them when they were forced into the national stadium, or whatever they want to call it, the Olympic Stadium, which is now the London Stadium. Look at how it killed the atmosphere. Look at how some of their fans are trying their very best to create an atmosphere, and the club's trying their best because they're, let's face it, the only thing the club spend money on at West Ham in that stadium is the bubble machine. That's the only thing they've ever had to fork out for since they got handed that football ground. But let's get back to Newcastle. Let's talk about Newcastle. 3 great wins in the last few weeks. Great win in the cup, which started it off, the Chelsea. where Chelsea turned around and said that they played us off the park, and they didn't. Great win against Arsenal, wonderful football. And then that performance at Forest, which seems like ages ago. God, it seems like months ago. But how well did we play? And it's as though we've got our mojo back. I think yes, we've got a situation at the back with without having Dan Burns. So I think Kelly will come in. I think Livramento and Hall will naturally be the fullbacks. I think he'll go with the same midfield of Longstaff, Bruno, and Willock, and he'll go with the same front three of Joe Linton, Isak, and Gordon, which means no place yet again for someone who's turning into Eddie Howe's problem child in Tonali, because I don't think he can work out how to fit him in. Barnes will be on the bench. I think we'll probably see Matt Targett on the bench. I'd be surprised if we see Trippier or Wilson. To be perfectly honest, I think if it had been a Saturday afternoon game, I think the chances are we might have seen Wilson, but I think it might be just a little bit too early for him. It's a shame that Kraft's out for 8 weeks. They're talking about now, Steve. That's disappointing. I feel for the lad because it sounds like he's had to have an operation on whatever the damage was to his shoulder, which I think came out of the blue. I think we didn't really know anything about it, so I wish him all the best. It's good to hear that Botman is on his way to being part of the squad. But again, I don't think we'll see Botman until after Christmas, and Lascelles is going to remain a long-term injury. So it's an opportunity for Lewis Miley and an opportunity for Almiron and Barnes and Murphy if they're called into action as the game progresses. If we do need to change things, or if we're doing so well, because I think we will. I think it'll be a 3-1 win. I'm going to go with and follow Mitch's example and go with a penman, Steve.
3-1.
And can I just add that, yes, we're on Strawberry Place on Monday for the food bank. We're slightly a little bit further along. The old club shop, the temporary one has been removed, but that's going to be our pitch for the next few months until some development work that's going on the pavements backing onto the stack are completed. So slight change, another probably 50 yards further along, but we're just at the side of the Strawberry there where the old temporary club shop was.
Okay, good stuff. Joe, prediction from you?
Yeah, as people know, Steve, people keep pulling me up. I haven't been overly optimistic this season, particularly the way we started. But I tell you what, I am, I'm really glad that I've been proved wrong in these last couple of games. The international break come at the wrong time, as these things tend to do. We started to pick up, and I thought we were excellent against Nottingham Forest. I think whatever was said at half time, Eddie Howe's Newcastle United came out, and I thought we looked fantastic. So hopefully that will continue. We've had some sunshine in our legs for the lads who haven't been away on international duty. The lads who have been on international duty have done a great job. I actually wrote down, before George said it, I wrote 4-0 down on my pad, and I never say that. I never ever say that. But I just fancy it. And Mark Byers has just said there, what price for Alex Isak hat-trick? 16-1. And I think the form that the lad's in, West Ham are a side on the downers. They don't. The manager looks like he can't get a tune out of them. Yes, they've got some excellent footballers, and I don't think they'll get relegated. But they're not having a great time of it at the minute. And before the international break, we absolutely were. So let's be confident. Let's get them lights on. It'll be freezing, and I'll be moaning all the way over the Tyne Bridge on the way home. But it'll make it feel slightly better if we've won 2-3-0. But so I don't get shouted at this week. Newcastle United 4, West Ham United 0.
All right, so it seems I'm going for the more conservative one this week with a 2-1 win. Professionals will be Sunday, 5 o'clock. I don't care that Ipswich and Man United's on. We'll be doing it at 5 o'clock. It's the best time, I think, for me, Mitch and Stu this weekend. So, and there will be a fans forum Monday. I will do that as well before the game. It'll be the slightly earlier time of 5:45 till 6:45. So there will be a fans forum on Monday night as well. George, I know you won't be able to do that because you'll be heading to the ground, but I will be doing the fans forum Monday. Okay, time for some Lookalikes. And here it is, the Steve Hasty fan club watching the three Amigos. Good stuff, Steve. Thank you for that, Stephen Kennedy. And David Cook says, see, Steve Hasty's had a wash and a brush up for the weekend. Thank you for that, David Cook. David, I thought David was your friend, Steve.
So did I.
And here's one from 100% Mags. Singer Debbie Harry and actress Cara Delevingne. That's not bad, mate. They both got blonde hair. So it's a good start. Tim Cairns, thank you for this one. Simple Minds and Keith Patterson.
Interesting.
It's all right.
Keith will be Simple Minds. Was it not a statement?
Keith will be happy with that as well. Home Alone's Harry and Marv. Good one, Soda Pop Kid. And this one, Mo Salah was in Rambo 3, according to Tim.
Hey, yeah.
Another lookalike. Very good. A picture I took of the match against Forest from Terence Ross. Sean Wallace from The Chase was and the steward at Notts Forest.
That's brilliant. That.
It is a good one, that.
And Nightwave says lookalike, but I didn't want to use, but they do look alike. He says, so I'm not saying Anthony Gordon's a Nazi. Let us get that straight. He says, but it's a soldier from The Boy in striped pajamas and Anthony Gordon. That is uncanny. I don't know what the actor's name is, but it is uncanny. So thank you for sending that in. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Tim as well sent this one. Jams, Martin and guitarist Simple Mind.
Yeah.
And this one was from Chris O'Neill, Sam Allardyce and John Travolta. I've cut Sam's head off, so I've had to put it at the top there so you can see what he was going on about. But yeah, not bad. I bet you John Travolta's over the moon about being compared with him.
If it was, it would have been singing, "You're not the one that I want."
Exactly. Stu Penman's great granny. Not a lookalike, but I just thought, well, if it's supposed to be Stu Penman's granny, it's got to look a little bit like him. So that's why I stuck it in there. Thank you, Stephen. One for the lookalikes here as well. Leo Sayer and Mo Salah. That's hilarious. It's like a piece of broccoli. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It is. David Cook, another one for the lookalikes, not involving Hasty Dogs this time. Ted from the Three's a Crowd and the guy off the new Amazon advert. Ted will be, I don't think Ted will be that disappointed about that, to be fair. And Benny Hill, he didn't realise that Benny Hill had done a Steve Hasty. Bottom left, Steve. Bottom left, Steve. Bottom left.
Me.
I know. Steven's shouted in for you this week, I think. Tweet of the week, Nintendo prepped one this for us. This is more of a lookalike, I think.
That's pretty good.
Excellent, yeah, because it was Mike Tyson on there. But yeah, they did preempt it, mate. I mean, definitely did. Tom Dixon was submitting a few this week. Damon Tagarin and Haaland.
Yes.
Of course, the guy who played Doctor Who, isn't it? Luke Shaw and Stephen Amell. Another one who must have been in the same program.
Yeah.
And Michael Schofield and Connor Cody. He'll be over the moon with that comparison, Connor Cody.
Yeah.
Top two, Brad Friedel and Bruce Willis. Very good, Tom. Your selection of photographs was excellent with that one. But the winner this week is Steve Zahn, the American actor who was born 10 years later and a kid from a 1950s advert. Very similar, Stephen. So, yeah, you put 3 in, Stephen. I think you deserve to be the winner. That was definitely your best one. If you've got lookalikes, go to the Facebook group or the Facebook page, join or like, and we will pick up your lookalikes for next week. And finishing off with a little bit of Elliot. I was at a funeral today and I asked the priest for the Wi-Fi password. Have some respect for the dead, he said. Okay, I replied. Is that all lowercase without spaces?
Yeah, excellent.
Very good. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Great show, as always. Thanks to Borough Mag, to Steve, to Mitch, to George. Thanks to all the moderators, and thanks to you for watching. I'm back in the morning, 10 o'clock, with Three's a Crowd, with Ted and Rye, looking ahead to a weekend of football. And on Sunday evening, 5 o'clock, back for the professionals. Have a nice weekend. Don't let the football spoil it. Take care.
All the best,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you.